House Bill 142 would help higher education. As we amended it today, it will require every state consulting contract that spends state taxpayer money to be reviewed by the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget, with an eye toward eliminating some of those contracts and renegotiating the others. We have so many consulting contracts in this state, 19,000, that if we could reduce that spending by a very modest 10%, that would save $500 million. Even if we can only reduce the spending by 5%, that'll save $250 million. That money will be directed to LSU and Southern and ULM and LSUS and Delgado Community College and all our fine universities. What we have done to our universities in this state since 2008, I'm embarrassed as a state official what we've done. We have reduced spending out of the state general fund to our colleges and our community colleges and our vo-tech schools by 67%. Every other state is raising or increasing money for higher education. We're cutting it. On top of that, the administration imposed tuition increases, which, as far as I'm concerned, is nothing more than a tax. It's a tax on parents and it's a tax on students, and we don't need to do it. We can save money for these colleges and universities just by getting rid of some of these frivolous consulting contracts. My job is to count money, but in doing that, I've learned how to count votes. And thanks to Senator Donahue and President Lario and many of you, we have an amendment to propose to you. The amendment would state simply, and Sherry, if I get this wrong, where's Sherry? Sherry, if I get this wrong, correct me. The amendment would say very simply that if there is a contract, a consulting contract, worth $40,000 or more that involves state general fund monies, that contract would have to be submitted after approval by the Office of Contractual Review to the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget. And the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget could take one of three actions, Sherry: approve, disapprove, or not issue the contract and direct the savings to a special fund that will be set up for higher education. There are a lot of these contracts, and the way we envision this working is that well before the beginning of each meeting of the JLB, you would receive a listing of the contracts. If you had no questions, the contract would be automatically approved. So your time would be spent on those contracts that that folks had questions on. Basically, this will bring some transparency to the contracting process. I believe it will lead to some savings that we can spend in higher education. It operates under the assumption that nothing helps you to resist temptation more than a good upbringing and witnesses. This will give the process some witnesses, and I think we will be able to achieve some savings. I also think you'll find that some of the contracts that are less of a priority, folks will not even bother to have you review them. And that, in a nutshell, is what the amendment does. If any, I want to save time in the interest of your agenda, but Senator Murray asked me last time to come back with some specific contracts, and I've got some if you want to go into those, but in the interest of time, I'll pass on that right now.
I'm here to speak on behalf of HB 142. I'm not going to review the bill because I only have 2 minutes, and I'm sure that you know about it. I'm sure that all of you also know within your districts the hardships that your colleges have gone through in your districts. You know, program cuts, faculty and staff laid off, services that used to be provided, you know, free as a public service, you know, gone up, and jacking up tuition. This bill is the best shot, you know, that we have. It will help undo untold damage, and not just simply in dollar and cents that we've had to face up to the last 6 years, but also just simply the will. I'm here primarily to talk about censure. 5 of our universities are censured by the American Association of University Professors. And I'm sure if those university presidents were here to speak about this, they would tell you that they were faced with very tough decisions that they had to make in reaction to like these cuts. And a lot of those decisions, they were questionable decisions, but nevertheless they had to make tough decisions. We're kind of hoping that this money will come from that, will not place them in those situations, and will get us off those censure lists.
I'm here to relate my experience in 2 areas. First of all, as the parent of a child who will be in the 8th grade in the fall and in a Gateway program at Caddo Middle Magnet, already thinking about college. Second, as someone who works in higher education and has seen the effects of the devastation from 6 years of cuts. 75% of the state budget appropriation for higher ed has been cut. My 13-year-old and her friends are all talking about going to college outside of Louisiana. These Gateway students have seen what you all have done to higher education in our state, and they don't like it at all. And a top scholarship, you say, that's not enough to keep these kids when the very fabric of these institutions is being destroyed. These kids are smart enough to know that higher education means more than some crumbling academic buildings with adjunct faculty tacked down to the hindquarters of a football stadium. A $1 billion football stadium, and 20% of the budget for consulting contracts and just 2% for higher education. That's the situation now. That is absurd and appalling. Where are our priorities? When the governor and Governor Perry are sitting up there in the luxury box at the LSU Texas A&M game, do you think that our governor is discussing the fact that the state of Texas has 3 AAU universities and Louisiana has none? Do you think our governor mentions the 300-pound ceiling panel that fell from the ceiling of the LSU Arts Building last fall? Or the 200 professors that have left the flagship campus due to the $1 billion of cuts? And what about the repeated spending freezes, the busted pipes on our Shreveport campus, the burned out projector bulbs that we can't replace, cause us to parade students from classroom to classroom just to project an image to educate them? We have our priorities on the wrong 3 letters in Louisiana. The priorities should not be on BCS. They should be on AAU, Association of American Universities, being competitive with those schools, and it should be on GDP, using our universities to build a knowledge-based economy and grow the gross domestic product of this state with that economy.
I want to echo a lot of what my colleagues have said about the impact that these cuts have had on higher education. Anyone who believes that somehow higher ed is somehow still flush with cash simply hasn't been talking to people in the higher ed community. I just want to make a couple of quick points in the few seconds that I have left. Especially institutions like Southern University and smaller institutions specifically tell students to come to our schools because we are smaller and that we are able to provide the one-on-one individual attention that a lot of our students need. But because of these cuts, we have been forced to raise class sizes, reduce offerings, and we are not able to simply provide many of the services that have been our calling cards. So these cuts are having a real impact on our students. They are delaying people's graduations because we don't have the courses students need so they can graduate in a timely manner. So I want to make that point real quick. I also want to make a reference to a point that my colleague from Shreveport just made about the exodus of faculty to other states, other universities that take higher education seemingly more seriously than Louisiana. We demonstrably affect the quality of education that our university can provide if we cannot compete for the best faculty. It's just as simple as that. During the beginning of the recession, we were shielded to some degree from this reality because the economy was bad everywhere. And so a lot of people just stayed put because they were happy to have a job. We cannot count on that anymore. The economies are improving in other states, and we're seeing the exodus from the flagship university and the other institutions. So I urge you to pass HB 142 and help us to begin to start to undo some of the damage that we have been inflicted from 6 years of budget cuts.
I want to share my brief remarks by simply telling a story about one of my colleagues named Mark, who I will call Mark. Oozing with Ernest Gaines, William Faulkner-like talent, Mark is a young man, quite accomplished, with already 2 award-winning books to his credit, not only bringing celebrated attention to our university, but also he's an inspiring individual for students who take his classes. Mark is also a husband, a father of 2 young ones, and is the sole breadwinner of his family of 4. When he leaves work, he goes to a very modest house in dire need of repair and barely scrapes to make ends meet at the end of the month. Mark makes $32,000 a year. Not only that, he made $32,000 a year last year, and the year before that, 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 he made $32,000. As you can imagine, the price of Spam, dried milk, and processed cheese has gone up since 2008. I suppose I don't have to tell you that Mark's salary for a family of 4 is a mere approximate $8,000 above the poverty line. Frankly, I'm not sure if we all should be proud or be embarrassed. Proud, for he's an accomplished university instructor, and disturbingly embarrassed because he is struggling to make an economic go of it as a university instructor in the state of Louisiana. And the sad part is, Mark is not alone. There are many in that salary range and lower all over the state. Mark is a Louisianan. He's a good one. He represents who we want to keep in this state. But I ask him, and as much as it pains me, what are you doing here? I ask myself, what am I doing here? Because proportionately, I'm not far off where Mark is. I share with Mark that it's easy to recognize his gifts and talents, that he can go just about anywhere he wants, and I'm bringing this to a close. In light of the budget challenges, I've heard that the legislature is not interested in hearing about university salaries, or don't care to stomach the idea of salaries. Still, others have shared with me, be careful what and how you discuss issues with legislators because you don't want to make them mad. Perhaps all of that is true, perhaps that it's not. But I can't worry about that because people like my colleague Mark, and frankly myself, and numerous others are near the E line of the tank when it comes to hope, patience, and change regarding a shift in tide relative to higher education and in terms of building a decent quality of life here. I'm here to hopefully concretize something that is seemingly abstract to this body when discussing what the devastating cuts have done to real flesh and blood to some of the finest contributing citizens of our state. I appreciate this time. I urge you to support House Bill 142, and because it will make a difference. If you have a better plan that will make a difference immediately, great. But as far as I am concerned, this is a bill that will monumentally help the higher education in the state of Louisiana, and perhaps individuals like Mark will gain a little bit of hope.
I'm here to speak in support of House Bill 142. I concur with almost everything that's been said up to this point by my colleagues, and I'd like to reiterate that the faculty at the universities and institutions of higher learning here in the state are here in large part because we support our students, we support our institutions, we support our state, and we believe in these. That's the reason why we've made the commitment that we have. I'd like to begin by saying that I'm in favor of House Bill 142 because it's a fiscally prudent thing to do. And I think everyone here knows there's some discrepancy as to exactly what the figures are. But the state currently spends, I think it would be accurate to say, between $3 and $5 billion a year in consultant fees. Now, Someone put that in perspective for me by saying that the budget for the last year of the Foster administration, if I'm correct, was around $12 billion. And so that $3 to $5 billion in consulting contracts that we're currently expending is a huge percentage of the entire state budget going back, just 12 years. So I think House Bill